Hi, my name is Mark. So today I'm going to bring you a different sort of video because a bunch and a couple of weeks ago I've made videos about the secret chords that are lurking around specific scales, and not only have I showed you on that video how to find those chords and why you should consider using them, on my last Gate video, which is a series where I teach anything you guys leave in the comment section below, I told you about my favorite scale, why it is my favorite scale, and most importantly, how I use it. And that scale video is connected to my secret chords video, which if you haven't checked those out, I highly suggest you do. I'll leave them in the card section right there. And I'm suggesting you check those videos out because this video is connected to that video. In those videos I suggest ways you can use those chords as composing and songwriting tips, but also as soloing and improvising ones. And usually I just tell you, okay, you can just outline the chords. Either play your regular licks or some new licks and try to really hit those chord tones. But because we all love sweep picking and we all love crazy arpeggio shapes, I thought I'd show you this exercise, which for a long time was like my least favorite exercise. I hated that exercise because even though I knew all the shapes I needed to play, it really felt like a finger twister, even more than some other harder to play arpeggios. Take in mind these are not going to be some crazy Rick Graham 6 and 5 string arpeggios, but if you learn the concept with these shapes, you can then start expanding them on your own, depending on what you need to do and what you need to play and what you actually want to play, which deep down is what I think is most important. To some of you, this might be all sounding a little bit weird, so let me just show you. But before I do, I just want to say, please subscribe to my channel. You're probably aware that YouTube's been acting a little bit weird lately. Even if you subscribe to a channel, those channels' videos may really not show up in your subscription box, and even if you ring the little notification bell thingy below, you still really may not be notified of that channel's content. So if you want to see into my content, I highly suggest you subscribe to the channel, turn on all the notifications, and because that may or may not work, I highly suggest you follow me on social media. Not only do I post some exclusive stuff there, like improvised solos and chat cover backing tracks, and generally wherever I'm up to at the moment, but I always post that about my videos. Links for your usual suspects will be below, but in general at Mark Guitar. Oh, and since you're down there, please consider leaving a like and perhaps share this video on social media. I'd highly appreciate it. But yeah, I guess now we can get straight into it. Okay, so as a disclaimer, because I'm not sure if I said it before or not, I can't really play this super fast. I haven't really practiced it enough, and it really feels like a finger twister, so because I don't really think I'm going to get it at like Rick Graham or Yngwie Malmsteen speeds, I'm just going to show you how it goes, and then if you want to practice to get it super fast, please do and film yourself playing it and tag me on Instagram. Not only will I see it, but I'll repost it and tag you on it. So what we're basically going to be doing is we're going to start in A, and effectively we're going to do the following chord progression. A augmented, A major, A minor, A diminished, A flat major, A flat minor, G augmented, G major, A flat diminished, B diminished, and we'll get back to the beginning with A augmented. But we're not going to play these chords in these positions. We could, but we are instead doing them on the top 3 strings in those 3-string arpeggio shapes, because these are the shapes that I use the most. I'm going to teach you this chord progression in these shapes. For instance, let's say that we're started with A minor. You don't really need to start with this A minor. You can start with this A minor. And it is something I suggest you do, which is to take an exercise like the one I'm going to show you next, where we're going to do all of these different shapes. And you can do it in all the positions. You do it here. And you can do it here. And down here too. The more positions you're comfortable with, the easier it is to solo and improvise. And if for some reason you've stayed this far and you have no idea about major, minor, augmented and diminished chords, you probably should check out the videos I mentioned before, or perhaps this video right here, where I talk about which sort of music theory beginners should start with, and that they'll actually end up using. But yeah, for now I'll play the lick slowly with some tabs and then I'll break it down. And in this case there are no chromatic nor extension notes. It's pretty much as I told you before. We're starting out with A augmented, then A major, then A minor, then A diminished, then we get to A flat major, then A flat minor, then G augmented, then G major, then A flat diminished and B diminished, and we get back to our initial A augmented. It's not really a pretty sounding cadence, But that's not really the point of this exercise. The point of this exercise is not only to memorize the shapes of each chord and to of course practice your sweep picking, but also for you to memorize which sort of chords blend in together. Because let's take the first example, the A augmented chord. We then move to an A major chord. And the difference between the A major chord and the A augmented chord is only one note. Maybe this shape is slightly more familiar. A augmented, A major. A augmented, A major. Only one note really changes. So it's not really like that's a seamless transition, but it works alright. But again, I really talk about how to use these sorts of things in other videos that you can check out in the card section right there. And I guess I don't really need to tell you that all of these little different arpeggio positions can be used just by themselves if you don't really know them already, but you can use them as passing tones. Again, we started out with our regular A augmented to A major, A minor, A diminished. As I mentioned before, if you're aware and comfortable with those sort of English shapes, it shouldn't be terribly hard. The only position that I guess is a little bit more weird for some of you is that I'm using this position for the A diminished instead of using this one. This one is a little bit more common and in a way it can be more comfortable to you. But because we're doing these sorts of positions, I figured that it's probably a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more easy to play because it's a little bit more similar to the other positions. And then again we move from A diminished to G sharp major or A flat major. Then we move from the G sharp major to G sharp minor to then go to that G augmented. And we do the exact same movement we did before. We went from A augmented to A major, now we're going from G augmented to G major. We finish with the G sharp diminished, and we move it to minor third because that's how diminished chords work. And we start the whole process again. And again, as I mentioned before, you can just use this as an exercise to practice these positions and to practice how to move these chords from one to the other. And sure, you can use the whole thing as you like, but I think that for it to work, you really need to think about the chords you're playing over and see if it actually works. But you can also take some smaller chunks of it. Like for instance, that little part when you go from A major to A minor. That shows up in a lot of songs, going from A major to A minor, results go to E major. So next time you're playing over something like it, use the respective arpeggios, A major, A minor, but then you can remember our little exercise where we went A major, A minor, A diminished, and you can use that A diminished as sort of a passing chord to resolve to the E major, something like... It's not like it's a super outside sound, it's just a little bit more spicy. Or even maybe there's this little bit where we go G sharp minor, G augmented, and G major. For instance, next time you have a chord progression like G sharp minor to perhaps D sharp 7 or G sharp major. For those who know a little bit more about theory, you know that you can substitute this chord for an augmented chord. And by doing that, you can apply this part of the lick to these chords. You can do the little G major again as a passing chord to get back to where you started. Just something like this, doesn't need to be exactly like this. There really are no limits to this. And again, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, not only can you try this on your own, but you can perhaps find some other ways to apply this sort of a thing. If you're like me, for instance, I really like to do these sorts of minor 7 and 6 arpeggios where I just take something like your regular A minor position, but I add the minor 7 in, like the same thing with major chords. I had this major 6th in there. I also do that with these arpeggios. That's something I like to do that you either can try on your own or you can give your own spin on it. Again, post yourself playing it on Instagram if you want me to check it out. Sorry for the shorter video this week, but next week we'll get back to the regular style of content, I think. But for now, let's just get to the outro. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope this video was helpful to you in any way possible. And if it was, please leave me a comment below. Do you have anything to add to this discussion? Did you agree? Did you not agree? Or is there something I missed? Something I should have said? Also, if you have any suggestions for videos, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I have the C8 series, You Ask I Teach. I know, pretty boring, generic, and self-explanatory title, but it is, as you can guess, a series where I teach anything you guys leave in the comment section below. Well, guitar and music related, of course. So if there's something you want me to talk about, all you need to do is leave it in the comment section with the hashtag #8. Again, playlist with those videos right there, but I also do some other videos, for instance, sometimes discussions or talking about music theory related concepts, and explain it so that you guys can use it on your own, like why your modes don't really sound like modes. And some other times I take a look at a specific lick or a riff from a musician that I either think is interesting, or the lick itself is a little bit different from what they usually play. Like for instance, Paul Gilbert's secret jazzy bebop lick. And a bunch of other ones because there's already a little bit of a back catalog going on. But yeah, I guess that's it. Again, thank you so very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on all the notifications, follow me on social media, and perhaps share this video on social media. If you can, leave a comment for my 8th series. Again, that series can only keep going if you guys leave comments. But yeah, cheers!